Hello, this is the podcast host version of George checking in one last time for the Patreon bonus intro. If you're hearing this, it's because Best Little Horror House in Philly has ended, and I'm releasing the Patreon bonus episodes into the wild. These episodes only exist thanks to the very generous support of some listeners over the years, and I encourage you all to consider supporting an independent podcast this way, or independent art in general. As I mentioned, these episodes are coming from all over the podcast timeline. You'll hear the old intro sometimes, which is kind of a yardstick, but generally I am mentioning this because it means that they will have varying levels of audio quality. As I got better at hosting, so too did the technical aspects. While I certainly wish all the episodes were of the same standard that it reached near the end, I can't go back in time, and I felt it was better to release them this way than not at all, so I hope you enjoy.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh. I'm getting ready to watch a video.
You making popcorn?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. Talk to me. Talk to me.
Hi everybody, I'm George and welcome to a very special spotlight episode of the Best Little Horror House in Philly, because on today's crossover, we're talking about the gayest horror movie ever made, according to our guests at least. And you know them from the Carrie and Phantom of the Paradise episodes, as well as their own great podcast, Two Old Queens, where they're trying to find the gayest movie of all time. Please welcome Mark, Rennie, and John Flynn.
Hello. There, we tried to do it.
Very excited to have you guys back. Yeah, I think you nailed it as far as I'm concerned.
That's all we needed to hear.
Exactly.
Thank you for having us.
Indeed.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to talk about this topic in particular because, as I've mentioned before, I'm a big fan of your show. I think that part of what makes horror so interesting is how queerness is so wrapped up in the core of it and its history. So I think that this will be a very interesting conversation. But the movie we're talking about today is Nightmare on Elm Street 2, a classic from one of the biggest tentpole franchises. And I'm curious to hear if you guys have an opinion on this series in general, if you're a fan, or if this one just kind of stands out because of its unique elements.
I love the whole series. I've watched Never Sleep Again like 3 times. I think John has too. I think it's the documentary you've watched multiple. This is probably the horror franchise I've seen the most. Like, I don't think there's a bad one, really. You know what I mean? They're all entertaining in their own way, and I like that each one kind of feels different, so they feel like unique in that way. So I'm a big fan of the franchise.
Yeah, I also really love the franchise. I think the quality does go up and down a bunch from movie to movie, but I do think that they're all really fun. I think it's a great premise, and yeah, I don't know, except for the remake. The remake is the one that I'm just like, oh, this. The
remake's
it's rough. It's rough for sure.
But yeah, but as Mark said, even the documentary, which is a 4-hour documentary called Never Sleep Again, that documentary itself is very watchable.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it is a very fun franchise in general. A lot of the surrounding stuff is a lot of fun as well. Like you said, the documentary is really great. It's funny because it is so unique among slashers, I feel like the dream element of it,
the fantasy side of things. Yeah,
is really unique and lends a really cool dynamic to it where, you know, so often movies are like scrambling to try and cover their ass with logic holes. And here you're just like, it's just a dream. It's dream logic.
This guy likes comic books, so he's going to die via comic book. What more do you need? You know, that's enough.
Exactly. This is playing with power.
I also like any franchise, although it's strange that this one, the second one, I guess this one kind of has like 2 outlier entries. Like Elm Street 2 and New Nightmare, I guess, would be like the 2 outlier. But I like a franchise that has like outlier entries, like a Jason Goes to Hell, Halloween 3. We're still waiting. I'm waiting on Scream's outlier. I think they need an outlier. Go Supernatural one episode. Why not? We're going to have 7 of these? Come on. Have some fun.
We're getting there.
They're
overdue for space.
Right.
They are long overdue.
Time to go into a black hole, Ghostface.
So, like I mentioned, queerness is at the very core of horror movie history, not just through a psychological framework, but specifically, I want to call out James Whale.
Sure.
Who was openly gay and did weave some gay subtext into movies like Bride of Frankenstein with Pretorius and the monster himself. Additionally, like the lead of our movie today, his refusal to be in the closet did impact his perception in Hollywood and his career, which similarly came to an early end. So much of horror is about like fear of the other, and so it's very easy for people who do feel marginalized to identify with these creatures or with these people who are lashing out and hurt. And Frankenstein in particular is a gentle soul who is reacting to the things that are happening to him and everybody's own reaction to him.
So if I want to throw a little girl in a lake, that's my purview. Let me live.
It's society that makes it a problem.
Yeah.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
I also think there's a part, I think we talked about this in the Carrie episode, the part of being queer and like loving horror is like, it's fun to see like the normal world get like decimated. You know what I mean? Like, this world's done nothing for me. So fuck them. You know what I mean?
I care about the status quo.
Yeah. Fuck the status quo. So I think that's a part of a big element for me anyways.
It is interesting for this movie in particular that it became part of the gay canon, not because it explicitly says Jesse is gay, but because it is sort of tied to...
It might as well, though.
It might as well. That's true. But it is sort of tied to the consignment of gayness to suggestion and negotiated by self-identifying audiences. People have to say, I see myself or aspects of my community in the vagaries for movies that don't and can't explicitly say it. And at the core of it, it's Mark Patton, our main guy here, who started on Broadway with Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, about a James Dean fan club reuniting to commemorate his 20th Death Day anniversary. Quite a title, I will say.
Really rolls off the tongue.
Yeah. In it, Mark plays a teen boy who transitions to a woman played by Karen Black. And while critics weren't really sold on it, it was a hit with some very influential people like David Bowie and Andy Warhol. Plus, he was being directed by Robert Altman, co-starring with Cher, Sandy Dennis, Kathy Bates. It did make a big splash, even if critics weren't necessarily thrilled on it. And so when Altman made the movie adaptation in 1982, he kept the same cast, and that's how Mark wound up in L.A.
And what an education, though, too. Like Karen Black and Cher,
Yeah.
And a young Kathy Bates.
That's right. Bates. Surrounded by greatness. I mean... Cher, I can't imagine getting to hang out with Cher like that. That's got to be incredible.
8 shows a week? Come on. If he wasn't gay before he was cast, he had no choice. Yeah. He had to become gay.
So now that he's in LA, he gets the lead in Nightmare 2, which was a very coveted part, and the movie was a hit. It made $30 million on its $3 million budget, thanks in part to Freddy becoming a household name, with his and Mark's faces plastered all across Times Square and even the news, thanks to the conservative push against horror movies.
The news?
If you can believe it. If you can even believe it.
On the news.
God, I wish conservatives would hate something I did. I'd make millions.
But his agents saw the gayness of the movie because, as you said, it is written all over it.
Hard to miss it.
And in an effort to get him to book straight roles, had Patton keep his sexuality quiet, especially after Rock Hudson's death made outing people practically a sport for tabloids. And this was followed shortly by a positive HIV diagnosis and the death of his on-again, off-again boyfriend, so he basically broke down and left acting, winding up in Mexico where he was an interior decorator until the documentary Never Sleep Again sort of roused him from hiding. They tracked him down and they said, hey, we're interested in talking to you about your experience. There is a fan base out there for this movie, despite his negative experience with the reaction to the movie immediately following. There is the documentary about it, Scream Queen.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting. It is obviously very focused on Mark's perspective and his reaction to things, but I did really enjoy it. I think that one thing that they mentioned in that documentary that I really, really connected with is that because this movie is part of this giant tentpole franchise, that it might slip through the cracks of parents who are forbidding gay media or gay movies or anything. But they're like, oh, it's just slashers.
That's Freddy.
Yeah. That's fine.
So it's interesting to think that, like, for a lot of people, this really genuinely might be their first experience with, like, male nudity in a movie like this, and having a place to discover their own reactions to this sort of stuff, despite parents who might not be allowing that sort of thing, I think is something that really makes this kind of fascinating.
I always knew when I was a kid, like, if a horror movie was on or I could rent a horror movie, that you had a good chance of seeing some TNA of every variety.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
horror movies usually deliver it in that. And like Nightmare 2 has like no female nudity, which is refreshing.
Yeah.
You can really relax when you're
I
watching.
can just unwind. I'm not going to be triggered.
You're not going to get assaulted. Right,
No.
exactly.
That's right. Just a lot of butts all around.
Right.
And I'm not complaining.
The pressure to stay discreet was around for Nightmare 2 as well, though. Unsurprisingly, Mark had a lot to say about this, and I did want to read this quote from the Windy City Times.
Oh.
He said, yes, that's right. Chicago City, baby. When I was in New York, I just lived my life, which is what one did in New York. And then I went out to Hollywood, and it was a completely and utterly different story. Personally, I was always out. I don't think I've ever been in the closet in my life, and generally, people sort of protected you. But socially, I wasn't allowed to live in West Hollywood, and I could never go into a gay bar because the agencies would post people at the door to sabotage people's careers. There were only about 20 actors at the time, including Matt Damon and Brad Pitt, who both auditioned, that would be considered for these roles, and agents would do anything to get an advantage. It was pretty brutal. And during the middle of Nightmare on Elm Street, I began to realize that there was something fishy going on with the script. Which, okay, that's one way to put it.
Took him to the middle. Something about that shower scene we just did. I don't know.
It slowly dawned on him.
No.
But he said it was terrifying. I thought, I'm in a box here and I don't know how to get out of it. This was my first leading role in a big movie, and the question was, could I play a normal guy? I had the chops to play people having nervous breakdowns, but could I be the boy next door and be straight? And yeah, as we get into it, like, I mean, it's barely subtext. It really is. I mean, but it is interesting to hear even Mark be like, he believes that it didn't enter the mind of any of the straight guys who were working on the movie. I mean, Bob Shea, owner of New Line, plays the bartender in the gay bar, filmed at famous cruising bar The Detour in San Francisco's Castro district. And he was like, I don't think that if he knew what kind of bar it was, that he would have agreed to do that. So
I
it
do
is
think it's
interesting.
possible that like Bob Shea doesn't know what a leather bar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To him, it might just be like, is this punk rock? I don't know.
Yeah.
But the writer and directors absolutely knew what they were doing.
I mean, it reminds me of like, though, when you hear, like, have you ever heard like your aunt say like, we had no idea Liberace was gay, and you're like, are you out of your goddamn mind? You had no idea.
But
I think there is a generation that doesn't occur to them to look for it, to, you know what I mean?
They don't know what it is. Yeah.
Heterosexuality is such the norm that anything else like doesn't even concern that. It's not even a thought.
Yeah.
They're ignorant is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I think that Mark is being polite and saying that, yeah, these guys are ignorant in the fact that, like, for them to not pick up on these things is pretty insane. And for a long time, David Chaskin, the screenwriter, did deny putting this into the movie. And he would say that Mark was so gay that he made the movie gay.
No.
Which is fucked up.
That is fucked up.
It's really horrible.
Yeah.
There was that scene in Scream Queen, though, when he, like, Mark confronts this. Is it the screenwriter he confronts? Which is a very, very weird scene in the documentary, I think. Because there's a part of me that wishes, like, Mark Patton, he seems to have a very complicated relationship with the movie. And I wish I kind of want him to just get to the point where he could just fully embrace it. And I feel like he still has a very conflicted relationship with it.
I think what it is, though, because I rewatched that documentary, too, in preparation for this. And I have to say, like, watching it made me very angry for him. And I think what he is more upset, less about the movie itself, but the fact that the director and the screenwriter threw him under the bus. Right. And that they blamed him for all of that rather than, you know what I mean? I think I understand, like, how horrible that must be, that he was just like, I was this actor who was doing what I was told.
Right. It was in the script.
Any criticism they got, you know, they just deflected and, like, put it on him. And, like, no one was there to protect him or to sort of stand by him.
It's got to be so hard, especially he's brand new in L.A.
Right. It's his first big starring role.
Yeah. It really is pretty gross what they did to him, for sure. And Mark said this is the big question. Why did he do it? He always said that he didn't write it as a gay movie, and he denied it forever. I don't know whether David is gay or straight, but I will tell you this. I think a closeted gay person in a position of power in show business is one of the most treacherous people that a gay actor can ever encounter.
For sure.
Yeah.
Even beyond, like, the accoutrement of the movie, like the leather bar and stuff like that, the gayness of the movie does start at a fundamental level with the decision to have this teen boy fill in for what's typically called the final girl role in slashers,
Right.
where you have a monstrous man chasing after them with a penis stand-in, and the way that Freddy is vicious to women and then tender with Jesse and killing the boys who get close to him. It is really, at its core level, there is a lot of gayness to it in a way that makes it very interesting and unique.
And also, I think you have that flexibility because Freddy's never he's not horny for teenagers.
Right.
You know,
No, he's
Freddy's
not, yeah.
never horny for his victims. Like, at least not in
He's horny for
when
Kelly,
he becomes a
yeah.
sleep demon. When he was like
Right.
a mortal, he was horny for young children.
Right.
But in the when he's like the pure sleep demon Freddy Krueger, he's not like a horny person. He is just more like a true specter.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it was funny watching again the first one. He's just like so delighted at like cutting off his own fingers and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is all he wants to do. It's just like be like, hey, look at my goofy abilities. It's like, all right, Freddy.
It's like a magic trick.
Magicians are similarly evil to Freddy.
Absolutely.
Equally insufferable.
You don't want to be
Freddy
cornered
Krueger.
by either at a cocktail party.
No. Ugh.
I'm your magician now, Nancy.
Oh, no.
Oh, dear. Someone wake me up.
Now, there are slashers like The Burning in 1981 where it is guys against Cropsy in the end, but this movie breaks form in additional ways that make this dynamic more closely aligned with the idea of the final girl, and in this sort of cool liminal space regarding quote-unquote traditional masculinity in horror. And also, revisionism or not, it's true what England says about it being able to be seen through this lens of Jesse struggling with his sexuality and Freddy being the manifestation of his desires and the associated guilt, which does make it kind of interesting to look backwards too, because Jesse's journey through these nightmares alone is kind of counter to Tina and Nancy discussing their shared dreams in the first one. It's more identifiable as a stand-in for the audience to sort of reevaluate repressed sexuality in an effort to fit patriarchal society's definition of what masculinity is. You know, it's easier to say, oh, no one around him understands what he's going through. They're not sharing the same experience in the way that everyone has the same dreams in the first one. His isolation is part of what makes him so relatable.
I feel like Nightmare 2 is like almost in some ways like the only one with themes in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Sure.
The only one that is maybe about something besides just like, guilt of your parents or like, of the sins of the past repeating. You know what I mean? This
Right.
is actually about like, no, this is about another character's journey that really doesn't have anything plot wise to do with Freddy. Like his coming out story has nothing to do with Freddy, but Freddy's
Right.
just used as a device to tell that story.
Right.
Right. But it is also, I would say, accidental.
Oh, sure. But it's there,
Yeah.
you can't.
Right.
Even if it's his subconscious putting it on there, I mean, ultimately it is what's on the screen, so.
I do think there's no way the screenwriter and directors didn't know they were doing a coming out metaphor. It's just so explicit. It can't be this gay and then also not know you're doing a coming out metaphor.
I mean, it's hard to say because he, like, even in the documentary, he's still so like, well, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. It was supposed to be this, it was supposed to be that.
I think maybe that screenwriter is coming from a place of like, well, fans don't like this one, so I got to be careful in how I like spin this. But now I think this one is embraced for what it is on its own and not so concerned about like, it's an outlier, it breaks the rules.
Yeah.
Because who cares? Like, there's a million movies now where Freddy adheres to the rules, and you have those, they exist. This is not taking any of that away from you.
Yeah, it's so funny that when I was first getting into horror, I went through these tentpole franchises to start at, like, I just marathoned the whole thing, and Freddy was the second one that I went through. So I got to these movies very early in my horror career here, and it's fun to watch them and, like, not know what the general reaction to these movies is.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you walk away being like, oh, I fucking loved this one.
Right.
And then you go and talk about it with people, and everyone's like, oh, you're a fucking
That's
idiot.
the bad
And I'm
one,
like, yeah. I'm like, it didn't seem bad to me.
Yeah,
So-
right.
Well, I will say this. I do think that it's not a great movie. I think, like, I know Wes Craven, even though he had nothing to do with it, which might be part of it, but he said it's more like a collection of scenes than a coherent movie, which I get, but I don't think the flaws of the movie have anything to do with the sexuality of it.
I honestly think that the looseness of it doesn't really bother me too much. I think that having it be that collection of scenes does help to like feel displaced.
It also feels more like a character piece than any, because it really is just like there's really not a lot of stakes throughout. It's just more will he accept who he is, essentially, if we want to just go with the man. You know, it's not like it's a pretty low body count too, I think, overall. Or it takes like a long time before like what's the first death? The coach?
Right.
The coach is the first death, yeah.
And Freddy himself is not in it a whole lot either, because it really is focused on the Jesse story. So it definitely works for me. I also like that it's an outlier one. I do also tend to like these ones. I love Halloween 3 as well. So I do think that it's a lot of fun to have these ones that are willing to break the rules. I mean, even Jason 5, that like where it's, spoiler alert, Roy, and it's this guy like pretending to be. I know.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, but
La 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 la.
That's why I think Halloween Ends will be more appreciated in a few years, because it is these outlier ones. When the first they come out, everyone's like, "No, we reject the idea of we're being challenged with something new and different."
That's right.
I think once you remove it from the like burden of it's a follow up to Halloween. It's an end of once you remove it from all that and it just exists on its own thing.
Yeah,
it's a lot lower stakes. Like you can just enjoy them for what they are. It doesn't have to save the world or like bring a trilogy to a proper buttoning close. You know, just enjoy it.
Yeah, the Corey heads will rise up for sure.
They're out there.
Waiting for their signal.
That's right. Hey, I'm happy to count myself among them.
As soon as you see a Ford Focus driving down the middle of the road, that's your signal.
That's right. That's right. I do also want to just say that plenty of gay teens have been in heterosexual relationships in their early years, especially, and like Jesse, consciously or unconsciously rejecting Lisa, have had to negotiate sort of their sexual trajectory and the impact that it will have on their social standing, plus trying to understand themselves in a world that did not, and in many cases still does not, foster understanding. This is what a lot of the Don't Say Gay stuff is about, pushing kids to not have someone to talk to about feeling different.
Right.
And that's what Jesse is going through in this. You see what a nightmare it is for him, and unfortunately interesting that it is still such a timely movie.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. But let's get into it. It does start off dreamlike with the approaching Springwood, Indiana school bus interrupted by claw marks, which become the name of the movie. A great dramatic start. One thing I love about Fred, the man has a flair for the dramatic.
That's true. He knows how to make
Real
an
drama
entrance.
queen. Yeah.
I was thinking this one, like, wait a minute. What is Freddy? Freddy doesn't actually... What's the revenge?
They never said.
There's really it's not a revenge movie.
Revenge for moving into the house, I guess.
I wanted to turn it into an Airbnb. You know?
I was driving down the price. That's why I had waited this long. The bus driver is played by England out of makeup, which is always fun to have those cameos for me. And in the back is our man Jesse, looking an awful lot like a nerd. And this is part of what I like about this movie, and what something that stands out really early to me is that Jesse isn't like the coolest guy around, but he's far from a nerd in his real day-to-day life here. But he's also just moving into the Thompson house, so I wonder if he's sort of reinvented himself.
Oh, right.
To me, that would add even more to why he's so reluctant to lose any social status, because he knows what the alternative is, having been a nerd at his old school or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe there's some seeds here of why he would be nervous to lose any image.
Well, I mean, in high school, that's all you have.
Yeah,
is like, you know, that's the social currency is like, you know, how are you popular? Are you,
Right,
I either want to be invisible or popular.
That's right. Everybody gets off except two girls and Jesse, and the girls are gossiping about him. The driver speeds past their stop, though, and off-road. The girls are reacting strongly, but Jesse doesn't react at all, and the driver has become Freddy. His sexuality is taking the wheel.
Oh, no, I heard of Jesus taking the wheel, but this is ridiculous.
They finally stop, and the ground crumbles beneath them. There's some really fun miniature work of the bus on some spires here.
I really like the miniatures here. They're really fun.
That is fun.
Yeah. And one of the two falls as Freddy cackles, and he shifts the weight, and he approaches the teens. Fun lighting. He just takes his time. He knows how to work it. And he goes to slash, and it match cuts to a knife slicing a tomato, and it pulls out to reveal this classic nuclear family whose breakfast of insane cereal and tomatoes.
Yeah, Fu Manchus.
Fu Manchus.
I always look at the call Rhonda on the chalkboard
Yes.
by the phone. Who's Rhonda? Why did they never call her?
There's even later on, there's one where Jesse is just like wandering in the kitchen, and it's like right before the lightning strikes in the kitchen, and it's just changed to like call Zach. I was like, oh,
Who's that? Are these sleep demon experts? I don't know. Maybe we.
It is interrupted by this scream from off screen, and the little girl there asks, "Mommy, why can't Jesse wake up like everybody else?" And she says, "Oh, he's all right. He's just having a bad dream."
It also is like so rare for these movies to hear like a man have a girlish scream.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate it.
It's very high pitched. He's going for it.
Also, Clue Gallagher, very fun.
Yes.
Oh,
in this
yeah.
movie. He's having a blast.
I am a big Clue fan from Return of the Living Dead.
Of course.
And he is really making a lot out of this role as well, when he's accusing Jesse of being on drugs and stuff.
He needs a methadone clinic. Yeah.
That's right. And Jesse certainly is looks like he's having this bad dream. He's soaked in sweat as he wakes up. He's adjusting his tighty whities as he rolls out of bed.
They really do. And there's something about he adjusts himself with the tidy, and then they cut to 2 egg yolks
That's right.
in a fryer, which there are no accidents.
Kuleshov would be proud.
Huevos.
He's picked up by Lisa, who the whole time I'm like, this lady looks so much like Meryl Streep.
Of
It's
course.
so distracting.
Who better to help guide you on your journey towards sexuality?
Who else would a
So
gay
true.
man, a questioning gay adolescent would be like, no, I could make it work with a young Meryl Streep.
With Meryl, me and her are going to pull it together. But they tried to school, although they say Jesse doesn't use his key like the others,
Sure.
both literally for the car and metaphorically, because Lise isn't getting any, as we find out during the gym baseball game.
Right.
On the other hand, we have Grady, the cocksure gym class hero. And Grady teases for not paying attention and getting hit by the ball.
This is the base,
This
but
guy.
then he also like strokes him, like he like taps him on the cheek, like very tenderly.
I really love the sort of relationship that Grady and Jesse have because,
Yeah.
They're on the way.
and Grady is just like so unpredictable where he'll be like, hey, you want to hang out? I can't go to the pool party because I pushed my grandma down the stairs.
Grady.
First
Okay,
thought.
Grady.
First thought in the writer's room. Nope, that's perfect. Don't need to rewrite that at all.
That's right. Hey, they say go with your gut. So, but when Jesse gets Grady out and teases him back, Grady pantses him.
Yeah.
Pantses him.
Yeah.
And it quickly becomes them rolling around in the grass with Jesse's ass out, and he's trying to tear Brady's
In a
shirt
jock
off.
trap. That's gay. That's gay.
Yeah.
Jock traps are gay. We're claiming them.
Hey, that's
There you go.
canon. Everyone
That's
knows.
gay. That's ours. You
Undeniable.
can't
It's a
have
fact.
them.
Nope.
Also, gray sweatpants while we're at it. No, that's a hot scene. That would be one as a child. I was like, oh, this movie's interesting.
Something is changed within me.
The camera really does hold on them. They're rolling around in the grass and like pulling shirts off and stuff.
When
And
I was
yeah,
like a
it's-
curious pubescent, I always knew like, give sports movies a chance because they are often locker room scenes.
there you go.
So
Absolutely.
all is not lost if there's only a sports movie is the only thing on.
The coach is pissed and he gives them push-ups, and this is where Brady gossips about the coach, says he hangs out down at the S&M bar downtown and he likes pretty boys like you. Meanwhile, Lisa watches from the other side of the fence, a poignant symbol
Sure.
as Jesse dismisses it. They're finally released, and Grady tells him the outsider view of what happened with Nancy in the first one, which Jesse dismisses that as well. But he can't sleep that night, and he breaks a bottle opening the fridge, and he gets distracted from cleaning it up by movement in the bushes outside. And it's Freddy throwing stuff into a furnace downstairs. Perhaps his gay awakening thoughts from his tussle with Grady there.
Now, remind me from the first one, Freddy never lived. Did Freddy live in this house? No.
No.
The only connection in the house is this is where Nancy lived.
Right. Well, the
Did he live on Elm
her
Street?
mom. I don't think he
I don't
lived
think
on
so.
Elm Street even. The only connection I can think of is that Nancy's mom was like holding on to the glove in the
first one, right.
boiler down
She kept
there,
it next
yeah,
to her,
but-
all her hidden stashes of vodka throughout the house.
Right.
Please, Mark. She's a gin woman.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. Just
Please.
straight gin.
Respect the text.
My God.
No, she threw away the vermouth bottles, but the gin, she kept.
Somehow just
she had
like
an
a
art
bottle
project
of
in mind
gin
she never
seems
got around to.
Worse. Like, that seems like more of a troubling sign than a bottle of vodka. Gin? You're going for gin?
Right. Yeah, because vodka's an everyday alcohol, but gin is a very specific.
Vodka's cleaner, you know what I mean?
It's cleaner. It doesn't smell
odor.
like you can
Yeah.
cover it up.
So many different things.
Yeah, but if
right.
it's gin, you're like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and you get that gin hangover too. That's a nightmare.
That's a nightmare on Elm Street.
So true. So true, Mark. Jesse goes downstairs next, and he's panicky at the moving shadow down there. He calls for Dad, but suddenly Freddy is there, shushing him and saying, Daddy can't help you now.
Use of daddy. Ding.
Yes, that's right. Gay point.
Gay point.
I need you, Jesse. You've got the body. I've got the brain. And he rips off his scalp to expose it.
I love
Very
that
fun.
part when you got the body out. Like Robert Englund, just how he delivers that. It's so good. And then also, I like how like Freddy is like underlit. The light is always behind him. Like he only has like a rim light on him. You could barely make out, but it's just enough to be disgusted. It makes him more like a nightmare figure.
Little mystery.
Yeah, Robert Englund really does bring a lot to these movies, similar to Doug Bradley in that he has become so tied to it in a way that, some of the Jason guys really didn't. And it's funny that in this one in particular, they were like, we don't need to pay Englund. Right. We can just get a stunt guy. And then you see very quickly, no, we do need Robert Englund to have that je ne sais quoi.
Jason's like wearing a mask. There's not a lot of, it's so few like slashers are like
all that makeup.
Robert Englund might as well be wearing a mask, but yeah.
No, but he's like pretty expressive,
No, definitely. But it is funny because in this movie, there were so many times where, like Nightmare on Elm Street 3, the next one, like, they definitely really key into, like, Freddy as, like, the wisecracker. Yeah. There were so many times I was like, just pepper in a bitch. Or mother, you know what I mean? Like, you just wanted that from Freddy a little bit.
Well, the first one is even less than, like, he's even,
right.
He's like Rip Torn in this one, or Rip Taylor, I should say.
Rip Taylor, yeah. All that confetti he's just throwing all the constantly.
That's when you know you're in a gay movie.
Mark did talk about Robert having been like, is it okay with you if I put the blade in your mouth? And he was like, sure, okay, that's fine. And then the makeup person went, stop, he needs makeup. Pulled him aside and said, hey, it's going to look like you're blowing him if you do that. Like he was saving him.
Because this is the first one, or the only one, I think, where like Freddy's like trying to seduce somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
He's like trying to use one of his quote unquote victims as like a puppet or a toy.
Right.
A vessel.
Vessel is the word. Thank you, Mark.
There you go. This does wake Jesse up screaming again, though, although he does he asks his parents not to call a doctor over this. He says he's fine. And he goes to school the next day. They're literally learning about shit, and the teacher is droning on and on.
So weird. I'm not quite sure what the thematic. I don't want to know. I think it's rude.
What weird class are they all taking? Yeah, where he just has a weird slab of meat that he says is a heart, but looks like a liver in his drawer.
It might have been a cow heart.
You didn't. We had this every year. This was basically an assembly at our school.
An assembly. Come look at the heart. Oh, wow. It's heart day.
Bring your own snake. Yeah.
Bring your own snake. Come look at the heart. We're talking about the digestive system.
We did dissection in junior high, but I feel like we must have been like the last generation. Like, are they still doing dissection? They can't.
Oh,
we did a frog.
Yeah, we did a frog as well, and a worm. And then some classes we heard did a cow's eye.
I feel like there can't be much to dissect in a worm.
A cow's eye. Oh, there was something in an eye thing in my biology class, too.
Gross.
Yeah, pretty nasty.
Grady is very disdainful of Jesse falling asleep. It's very funny where he's like, can you believe this guy?
Yeah.
It's like, you would expect Grady to be like, I could go for some sleep too, yeah.
He's just busting chops,
Of course.
He doesn't know how to be affectionate, so he's aggressive.
He's a teenage boy, that's all they know.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And a snake wraps around Jesse. Could be more phallic imagery suffocating him.
Could be.
Could maybe.
Britney
Spears fan before the fashion. Sure.
That's right. And this does turn out to be in real life as well. Seemingly maybe a prank from Grady. Maybe not. I wasn't quite sure.
Like, how did this actually happen?
Right.
Yeah.
Because why bother having it be a dream? If some ways, like, if he is dreaming this part, like, but then it actually did happen, well, then why have him even What's the?
I think if
the
he's
point
not
here?
asleep, then like, how did the snake get so entangled around him?
Right.
But then the
yeah.
snake was around him because the teacher takes it off.
No,
him.
no, I'm saying like you're right.
Yeah.
I think that there's so much about this movie that they were just like, yeah, sure.
It's a weird thing.
Well, it does help to sort of blur that line
That's
between
true.
reality and dream.
we got to slow. We're pacing ourselves here.
That's right. And the teacher,
gotta
I like
tease.
his line, if you want to play with animals, join the circus. It's like, why do you have the snake there, man?
I guess this is the only one too where like none of the victims are like necessarily falling asleep. It's like Jesse
Right.
falls asleep and then gets possessed.
He's the only one, yeah.
And then which
Right.
brings
Issues.
and it's I guess we never actually see Jesse as Freddy, Jesse in the glove doing the killing. It's always like Freddy kills and then it cuts back and like Jesse's covered in blood.
The actor's never in the
Right,
Freddy
yes.
makeup.
I think the closest is probably with his sister.
Or you just
Yeah.
never see Mark Patton as, Jesse doing it. You never see him
Right.
doing
Well, there's
the
that
actual
one
act.
scene with him and what's her name? Where
The
they're having a
sister?
scene and no, the girlfriend, Meryl
Lisa?
Streep. Lisa. Where he sort of comes up from the coffee table and he's like, it just like there is a moment where you were meant to think that he becomes Freddy.
But I'm just saying you never see
Yeah.
Mark Patton himself do the actual like killing or anything.
Right. And
Correct.
I do think it's interesting because there's another moment at the pool party where they're like talking to him and like nobody's gonna hurt you, and it's like
Yeah.
they're talking
Who do you think
like
you're
they're
talking
to?
seeing
Funny.
Jesse, right? So it does kind of raise this interesting question of like, who are they actually seeing? Are they seeing Freddy or are they?
I think they're seeing
Jesse
Freddy,
there?
right? That's got to be
That's
Freddy.
my guess. Because Freddy
you would
comes
think,
out of him.
but-
Right.
Because if it was Jesse,
You'd
wouldn't they
think-
say like, "Hey Jesse, what the fuck are you doing?"
Hey, new kid.
Well, I might say, hey, nobody's gonna hurt you, Jesse.
Nobody's gonna hurt you, Jesse.
It's not your fault. It's not your
Very
fault.
good Will Hunting.
Is this Goodwill Hunting?
Yeah, exactly. Lisa does get a call from Jesse, while she's swimming in the pool. He says he's going to come visit, but he gets stopped by Dad, who demands he unpack his room. And so he stomps upstairs. And this is where we get the famous dance
Yes.
scene, baby. Wishes touch me. Who hasn't done this? Am I right?
Oh, I'm always dancing in my apartment.
That's
what
right.
else you
Little
gonna
booty
do?
bump, shut the drawers.
Absolutely.
Sure. You're dancing like no one's watching.
Exactly.
I do hate how he's placed his bed, though. It's a total waste of space.
For
Oh,
sure.
it's not good feng shui at all.
No, like
No.
away from the corner, so you have this like dead space behind the headboard. Especially if you're like being taunted by a sleep demon, you're gonna leave a perfect place for someone to
For him
hide.
to hide.
Rookie
No.
mistake.
Come on,
Rookie
Jesse.
mistake. He does also do this kind of like penis stand-in dance at the end with the
Yes.
popper toy.
Yeah.
Just as his mom bursts into the room, and Lisa is with her because she decided to come over here instead. Sign on the door that says "No out-of-town chicks."
Which is true.
Locals
okay.
only. Right.
Locals only.
I mean, really, he just means no chicks, probably, except for his, his hag Lisa.
there's like a little cross out through
Yeah.
out of town. While putting some sweaters on top of a box labeled "Probe,"
Love that game.
right? Who doesn't play Probe every night, baby?
I'll
No comment?
no comment.
No comment. All right, fair enough. Lisa stumbles on Nancy Thompson's journal from 5 years ago and reads Jesse a passage about watching Glenn lustfully. And Jesse jumps ahead and he reads the passage in a joking, sexy tone, but becomes serious as they realize it's about Freddy, not Glenn.
I wonder if they ever like published like that would have been how there was the diary of Laura
The Laura
Palmer.
Palmer
I wonder if that
diaries, yeah.
Nancy's diary would be like because I want to know what did she think about her mother's drinking? Found another bottle of
Yeah.
gin.
Oh, Mark, there's your fan fiction.
Okay, I'm on
Wow.
it.
There
Now's
you
your chance. Now's your
Money on
chance.
the
Heather
table.
Langenkamp, call us. We do get this great exterior shot of the house. It's very creepy in this moment where it's like the first time you're like, oh, remember the first one? Like,
Yeah.
you're like this
Right.
is the crazy
I love
shit.
that the bars are still on it. Like, like no real estate developer agent was like, "Let's take these bars off. We might sell it better if we take the bars
Right.
off this house."
Well, it's in the description. They're like, oh, there was a dream demon here. The bars
Yes,
do.
FYI.
They don't protect great, but
Bars aren't going to do anything for a sleep demon.
Right.
it's more for the security that like you feel. Even it's like the placebo of it.
I guess
Right.
peace of mind. Yeah.
Yeah. It is night now. He's sleeping fitfully, but when he quote unquote wakes up, everything is covered in goo and melting.
Yeah, that part's so gross. I don't know why.
This is nasty.
Anytime
Teenage
everyone's
boy,
like, it's
that's
too
why.
hot. Ugh. When you're supposed to sleep and you're
He's
hot, no thank
so
you.
sweaty. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, that is. It's kind of like one of the plot elements of this movie is that like the air conditioner is fucked up because of
that.
Freddy demon. I guess.
Freon. That's all we need.
Well, then do it, Dad. Do it. Yeah. If you know that's what it needs, do it. Get a clue. Right. If he didn't title his memoir, Get a Clue, I don't know what he's
again
doing.
leaving money on the table.
That's my second book. All right.
It's here in this dream that he feels compelled to visit the basement, which is, of course, famously the place where you bury things. And he finds Freddy's glove in the furnace, which springs to life as Fred himself encourages Jesse to try it on. Just a little being gay couldn't hurt, right?
Right. Also,
a little bit gay.
If you saw Freddy's glove, who wouldn't try it on? I would try it on if you saw Freddy's glove. Wouldn't you try it on? It's cool.
He doesn't even know really who Freddy is.
Anytime I see a glove, I'm trying it on.
That's OJ himself.
There you go. That's right.
Don't fit, you must have quit.
Yeah, he could have ruled himself right out. He's like, this glove doesn't even fit. Yeah. I'm not the one killing all these people.
He's definitely got smaller hands than Fred Krueger, I would think.
Yeah.
Although if it's too roomy, that doesn't assuage your guilt.
Preclude you from,
Some rubber bands will fix that.
That's right. Freddy jumps right to kill for me, which is quite an escalation.
Right.
And Jesse trips trying to run away. He's falling and he wakes up for real right in front of the actual glove. Again, something from his dream has come out into real life. These dream manifestations of being gay can't be kept there, basically. That it is, he cannot deny himself.
You know, you always know on some level, it's just when are you ready,
Right.
But it's all, it's going to happen. And it's just until, you can't take the pressure anymore.
That's right. And he discusses with Lisa the next day, who borrows the diary. She gives him a little smooch on the cheek goodbye, which he does not react to at all.
He's like, yuck.
Yeah, he's like, how long do I have to wait before I can wipe it?
Save it for Kevin Kline.
He and Grady get detention again with the coach because Jesse tries to be pals with Grady this time. And he relates and he says, hey, he shouldn't have called you out on that last play. I can't believe the stick up his ass.
Another
it's
metaphor.
Also the same shot.
That coach is very good. He's been in a million movies, but that guy's great.
Yeah. I liked him a lot too. I think he's in Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah.
I really love that movie.
One of the best.
One of the best. My man Paul, that Dutch freak.
We love him. I just pre-ordered a 4K Blu-ray of Showgirls.
Oh yes, the Vinegar Syndrome.
I wasn't going to do it, but it was like I need a 4K version. It's Paul Verhoeven. I'll get a 4K of Paul Verhoeven.
I'm very excited to see what the special features are because they usually do such a great job with like getting extra commentaries and stuff that I'm sure it's going to be an awesome set.
I can't wait. It's not until May. I pre-ordered, John.
Oh, planning ahead. Smart.
The wait is killer. Yeah. It is 97 degrees in their house that night.
That's too much.
It's too much.
You shouldn't be looking at the thermostat going, it's 97 degrees. Like, you should be like, alarm bells should be going off before
long before 97
when it's 84,
degrees.
I think you're like getting concerned.
The birds attack and then explode, which is a wild sequence.
So wild.
And in his casting about for a rational explanation, I love that Dad settles on accusing Jesse of blowing up the bird himself.
Right. You did this.
More restless nights for Jesse. Lightning does strike inside the kitchen, and he heads downtown to Don's place, the leather bar referenced by Grady before. You have Jesse, his shirt is open, he's soaked in sweat, and he orders a beer. But who should stop him but Coach Schneider?
I don't think Coach Schneider should be approaching his students at the bar. Or leaving with them.
I don't think so either.
You'd think he'd be more like, I will say this. When I was in high school, I went to a gay bar, and it wasn't my English teacher, but an English teacher at my high school was there at the gay bar.
Wow.
Was it like a leather bar or?
No, it was just a gay bar.
Did you acknowledge like a tip of the hat?
No.
Kind of thing?
What was funny is, so a friend of mine took me there who was older, and I was not of age. So, like, I know some people have said, like, they should have pardoned him. I was 11, thank you. But a very mature 11.
Of course. You listened to cast recordings.
Of course, I knew Camelot and whatnot. But people around him started talking very loudly. And his name was, I think he's dead now. His name was Joe McGinty, and other people around him kept referring to him as Hot Dog Joe. And my friend who had brought me there, I was like, "Can we leave? I have to leave right now."
I thought you were going to say he was called the Great McGinty after the Preston Sturgis movie.
Missed opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. The hot dog name is a classic as well, though.
Classic bar moniker.
I don't know what it means, but it's not good. Right.
It could be good, very good.
It could be
That's
good.
true.
Yeah, I don't know. But Coach Snyder does approach, and he gives him night detention, which is the
Which is
worst
so
kind
crazy.
of detention.
Night detention.
And we all supposed to know exactly what that is. Oh no, not night detention.
That's funny.
It's like detention at night. That's
no.
the worst.
I feel like that's against the law.
There are no rules.
He does run laps in the gym, and Jesse hits the showers after, and the coach is in his office.
Also,
and
Jesse's
he
shower
gets-
though is very for this such a harrowing evening. He's taking like it's like the
Most
sensual
luxurious.
shower.
Yeah. Just
Garnier
products.
Fructis.
The products in his
Yeah.
high school shower were
He is
so nice.
luxuriating in the shower. Like I would be like doing the
He's
fastest
like, I've
shower to
earned
get out
this.
of there.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I really
He's saying, I'm
needed
gonna wash
this.
that man right
Yeah.
out of my hair.
Thank you.
The coach is in his office, and he gets attacked by balls, and then
Ding.
tied up and dragged to the shower by an invisible force, where he is stripped and rat-tailed while making eye contact with Jesse, before Freddy finally emerges and slashes him to death, and the shower heads all spray blood.
I do like the steam. All that steam out. Jesse disappears in the steam, and then Freddy emerges.
yeah.
That
That's
is
fun.
cool. Yeah, it's a nice. It's cool because they usually use fog. Like, there's a lot of fog in the first one and everything, and so for them to like
They
get the
justified
actual, yeah, exactly.
It's diegetic in a way.
Oh no, this makes sense. This I get. This is okay.
Yeah, yeah. And Jesse holds up his hand to find the claw on it, and he screams before waking up once again. In my opinion, this could pretty easily be read as Jesse having a fantasy about having a potential sexual encounter with Coach Snyder at the bar, then panicking about having these feelings and murdering him rather than admit them, especially since it involves conforming to a specific gay subculture instead of the all-American boy image that he's been cultivating.
Yeah, how do we think he ended up at the? Was that Freddy? Like, hey, come on! Is like Freddy trying to like help him? Like, I will be your shepherd through the coming out process. Like, I'll take you to the gay bar. I'll be your wingman. Is it, like, what is Freddy's intention with taking him to having him? Because that Freddy's like entering him and like compulsion. Like, is Freddy like Ambien? Like, you take Freddy and you do crazy
Sure,
things
sure,
in your
sure,
sleep.
The perfect scapegoat, at least.
Exactly.
I was on Freddy. I didn't mean it.
I had Freddy and a glass of wine. Ooh.
These calories don't count. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm tweeting about.
He is brought home by some cops who say that he was wandering naked on the highway, and so Dad accuses him again, this time of taking drugs. What are you taking, and who are you
Honestly,
getting it
I
from?
think Dad isn't far off. Now, for finding naked,
Sure.
on the side of the road,
Yeah.
the dad is right to be. Also, they don't do anything to help him. The
Right.
parents.
No.
That's
It's-
like
he
all
is
the movies, though, right? That's it's kind of thing with Elm Street. The parents are all ineffectual and like kind of.
I don't think there's a single slasher movie where the parents behave in any rational manner whatsoever. Or the police. Because also, like, oh, this teacher died, and we found this young student wandering naked on the streets. Let's not investigate him. Let's not talk to
probably
him.
fine.
Let's anything. Probably completely unrelated. Have nothing to do with each other.
He was at Don's place all night. He couldn't have been him.
We've got several eyewitnesses who corroborate
right.
his story.
He was hanging out with some guy in a worn-out hat and a raggedy old red and green
the
sweater.
worst sweater.
The straight bartender said he was there the whole time.
Mom is worried about him. She thinks he needs professional help, but Dad thinks he just needs a kick in the butt. And so both have noted this change, but they can't quite pin it down. And it does turn out that the coach has been killed in real life. And the following night, Jesse's in his tighty whities again, and he's tempted again by the glove to kill his sister this time, and then finds the creepy jump rope girl singing the Freddy rhyme, or at least most of it. This is a classic. You gotta have the creepy singing kids.
Was it his sister
Yeah.
playing as the jump rope girl?
Oh, was it?
I don't know if she was.
I think it might have been
You think all blonde girls are the same, Mark? How racist.
towards white blonde girls.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
I
right,
think
Mark.
they can handle it.
You're lucky this
They're
is behind
very
the
fragile.
paywall
They're
because you're
very
trying to
frail.
cancel us
It's
right
just because I'm suing Gwyneth Paltrow for skiing into me.
That's right. That's right.
Saying there are no accidents. You said
That's
that
what was
earlier.
my defense. That was my accusation. That's my case.
That's right. And this is actually also, there's a lot of subtext about goop in this movie. So.
Absolutely. There's a lot of goop.
That's right.
Indeed.
The next morning, Jesse confronts his dad over breakfast about the events of the last 5 years, including apparently Mrs. Thompson killed herself in that very living room, which that's quite a reveal.
That's fucked up, yeah.
Yeah. And it does scare his sister, but dad is more pissed about his spot getting blown up. He's like, it was very cheap, of course.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
They're interrupted by an unplugged toaster erupting into flames, though, so that ends the conversation.
As it will.
Right. Can't blame them on this one. I probably would also get distracted by that.
Now, what were we talking about? Never mind.
Time
for school.
That's right. Got to be all toaster all morning. Lisa thinks he's picking up psychic signals, and she takes him to the old power plant where Freddy was killed by the parents of Springwood so that she can share her research findings and see if he can make a connection. And suddenly, the boiler in his basement springs to life, and Jesse has another nightmare where he's wearing the glove. So he washes down some caffeine pills with Coke and then pounds back some coffee in the morning during a very funny scene where his mom is like, "You look better," and he just like stares at her.
Like a drug
bags
addict.
under his eyes.
Also, I would not be drinking Coke because you're going to crash from that sugar.
That's right.
Then you'll have more
another
Coke.
rookie mistake.
No.
Wow.
And rotten
That's what
teeth.
the amphetamine
No.
is there to counteract.
He didn't have Adderall he could snort at the time. It was 1985.
You can't even get it now. This is the real problem. Is there a
tough.
shortage? What about all our
Again,
sleep demons?
Again, shockingly timely.
Yeah.
Prescient, some would say.
Yep. At school the next day, Jesse is eating with Grady, who does invite him to hang out sometime. He's scarfing down this meal and has 3 milks
Yeah.
on his tray.
Ding, ding.
Because nothing keeps you awake like milk.
I don't think Grady is concerned about staying awake. That's Grady has the milk.
Oh, that's true.
That's right.
gotta-
Yeah. Well, that'll
yeah,
put him
he's
right
bulky.
to bed. That makes sense. And he is apparently grounded for throwing his grandmother down a flight of stairs, which does mean he's going to have to miss Lisa's pool party coming up. Very funny way to like announce that this is happening. Lisa wants him to talk with her. We can figure it out together, she says, but he says there's nothing to figure out. At the pool party, Lisa's dad is wearing a delightful Mr. Wonderful apron.
Yeah.
I
And
gotta
play
get
the
one of
worst
those.
music. Like, I even
Benny
think that
Goodman,
music
how dare you?
for a pool party? You don't want Benny Goodman at a pool party.
Speak for yourself, Mark.
Yeah.
You're not playing Benny Goodman.
Have you
at
ever been to a
pool.
Benny Goodman pool party? You'd think differently.
I've
if
never.
you had.
I've been to a lot of pool parties. Never been to a Benny Goodman pool. Have
Well,
you been
then
to one?
you don't know. You haven't said.
Just from what I've seen in the movie, I'm not impressed.
All right.
It is funny, though, that this does pay off from earlier where they're like, your dad's not going to DJ again, is he?
See, that's what I
He's
mean.
playing this.
I'm with the kids.
He is slanging BBQ to the gang, and so Jesse wanders off. Lisa follows him, and this is where Jesse finally does open up about his dreams and his own diminished capacity to cope.
In a pool house, no less.
That's right.
That's where the truth is told.
Exactly. You can't hide.
Who hasn't been there?
No.
The confession leads to them smooching, but suddenly Jesse's tongue gets huge and turns to Freddy as his quote-unquote monstrous interior surfaces in reaction to this heterosexual encounter, leaving Lisa very frustrated. Yes.
Been there.
And so Jesse runs immediately over to Grady. Please,
Where else
Grady,
you gonna
rescue
go?
me.
Mars.
I'm horny, but I don't know what to do with this energy.
I've got this boner I don't know what to do with.
Please, Grady, let me sleep
Help
here.
me.
Something.
Watch me while I sleep.
And if you want to do anything else while I'm sleeping, go for it.
I mean, I'll be asleep, so I won't
That's
know
right.
what
I'll
happens.
be asleep. I won't know.
It's been days. I'll be so deeply asleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as you don't fall asleep, I'm safe.
That's right. He says, something is trying to get in my body, Grady. And he says, yeah, she's waiting for you in the cabana, and you want to sleep here with me.
Come on. See, they know what they're doing.
That's right.
Come on.
Also worth noting that Grady is wearing just his tiny little sleep shorts, and his room is
he looks great.
papered in androgynous feathered glam posters and
Yeah.
stuff.
Lamal,
That's right.
who did the Never Ending
Turn
Story
around.
song.
Fly a fantasy.
Also, his door signs say no nerds and no turkeys.
Yeah. Well, there was a time when being a nerd was a bad thing, but now nerds run pop culture, and
right.
it sucks.
That's right. That's right.
So thanks a lot, nerds.
we need more Gradys in the world.
We do need
Bring
more
back the
Grady's.
turkeys.
People were also just really into letting you know what wasn't allowed in their room in 1985.
Very direct, straightforward. It's a simpler time.
Grady does finally agree to watch and thus signs his death warrant with Freddy erupting from Jesse to kill Grady. I absolutely love this scene. I think that the special effects of like the arm falling apart are so great.
I love the eye and the mouth. And then just seeing Freddy emerge, like the camera's like behind him, like the shoulder, and then Freddy goes emerge, and then like Jesse's remains kind of slip off his shoulders like a negligee in a high-end hotel room when the ambassador's visiting. You know what I mean?
All too well.
I really love that's the thing you got to admit for all the nightmares. The gore.
The special effects, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's pre-CGI.
That's right. It's all this great practical stuff, just a lot of things emerging from other things, pushing through. It's really, I mean, even, in some of the later ones where it's like people transforming into bugs and like motorcycles and stuff.
It's
truly outlandish stuff that I'm a big fan of, so. But the movie basically says, okay, we've seen that he can't handle a heterosexual relationship, but he also can't express himself in a socially permissible way, and confining his gayness is literally tearing him apart. And so we see Jesse standing over his body, soaked in blood and wearing the glove as Freddy chuckles and waves from a mirror. And he flees from the police to Lisa and confesses that Freddy is inside him and wants to take him again. He owns me. We get a nice pan over the pool party, and the pool is getting too hot, and the hot dogs become flame dogs without even being on the grill.
I think this is also only one where like it's so concerned with like heat.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I don't remember the other ones. Like you go to a boiler room, you're always end up in a boiler room, but it's never so much about like, it's so hot in here. Freddy, you know what I mean?
Dear.
That's like,
let me take off this sweater. Right.
and I've said this before, this is why I hate that Halloween is now a warm holiday. Because when you go, I can't get, if I'm sweating, I'm not going to be scared.
Yes.
Because like I'm sweating. I'm not worried about, like, I'm hot. What do I care if someone's jumping out at me? I'm hot.
That's right.
Do your best.
I'm not running.
I'm lethargic.
John is laughing, but I'm in complete agreement with Mark on
Thank
this.
you. If I'm hot, I'm not scared.
I'm not going anywhere.
That's right. I'm too busy concerned about me to think about anything else outside of that.
I need some ice water. People tell me, like, don't drink ice water if you're hot. It works.
It's refreshing.
It cools you down. So
who is telling you not
water.
to drink ice water when you're hot?
People,
You've never
John.
heard this if you're hot? You've never heard if you're hot, people
No.
say drink room temperature water?
Nope.
That's a prescription I've heard. Well, that's your Benny Goodman pool party, I guess.
I believe it's something to do with heat transfer. Yeah.
We all have
I
our
guess I need
things.
to listen to different podcasts. Okay.
Or you just need to go to parties where people are drinking room temperature water. I guess.
Yeah.
Who wants some room temp agua? Anyone?
Things are getting lit.
Well, if you're going to this pool party, all the beers are exploding, so water might be all that's
They're all
left.
in a red
Yeah.
wagon.
That's right. Oh, that's a classic pool party wagon, baby. Lisa reads Jesse the last page of the diary, which discusses how Freddy lives on their fear, but that they can fight him. And suddenly Jesse panics. He's coming back, Lisa! The TV explodes, and the fish tank explodes, and the light outside explodes. And suddenly Jesse is gone, with Freddy exclaiming, "He can't fight me, I'm him." And he attacks Lisa, who tries to appeal to Jesse inside. One thing I really like about Freddy is that he's kind of like a cat almost, in that like he does these little like temper tantrums of like just knocking over antique plates.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's like, you didn't need to do that, man.
Yeah.
Let's see if this will fall off a table. It does.
Like, you're a supernatural being. You're concerned about like knickknacks.
Tchotchkes?
Yeah. These are like getting your attention now.
That's right.
That's why I'm not afraid of ghosts. They never do anything. What do they do? Knock on a wall? Big deal.
I don't like your interior decorating.
Join the club.
In Jesse's voice, Freddy says, "Please kill me, Lisa." But her stabbing does nothing. And he says, "I love you, Lisa." And then repeats it in Freddy's voice before jumping through the door and turning invisible. Which
I really like that effect, though.
It's
That looks
really
like
fun.
really fun looking effect.
And like the stunt of it where he truly just like leaps through the door. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's right. Suddenly he leaps out in the middle of the group and he slashes several of the teens as the pool erupts in flames, which is also very fun. This one hunky boy tries to calm Freddy down. He says nobody's going to hurt him. He should be more concerned about himself because he gets slashed.
But also, all these kids just team up. Rush him. God. What are you doing? He's already killed 2 people. You're just going to stand there?
This was their one opportunity.
Knives.
He's only got 9.
Pick up a lawn chair and throw it at him. God, do something.
He's got exploding beer cans and flame pool, Mark.
Flame pool.
Lisa drives off to the power plant where she's greeted by 2 fucked up baby face dogs.
These weird dogs. It just felt like we need something weird here. What do we got? Rummage through the prop trunk.
That's right.
Put this on that dog's face. That'll work.
Sure. It's weird.
It is weird. It reminds me a lot of the 78 Body Snatchers movie where like there's like the dog that has like a human face mask on as well and licks through the mask. And you're like, ugh. Very
Gross.
Upsetting. I will say it's executed slightly better in that movie, but
You think?
sorry, I know. But it is fun here, and she gets this fun hallucination of bugs crawling out of her bite wound that she got from Freddy in the scuffle.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Also, I mean, part of Freddy's whole deal is the great lighting, which is in full effect here as she ascends, and she sees a demon cat kill a rat before finally Freddy is right behind her. He chases her. She appeals to Jesse again. She says, "I love you." And Freddy starts to bleed from his previous stab wounds. And she flees momentarily before turning back around and saying, "I'm going to take him away from you. I know he's in there." And Freddy keeps saying he's dead, but he becomes more and more desperate. "Jesse will die with me," he finally says. "He'll die with both of us." And it's true because he's not allowed to be gay. But pretending to be straight and being with Lisa was driving him insane. She wants the image of Jesse, but the real guy is dead in that case.
She can't have what she wants, Lisa.
Right.
No.
Exactly. Lisa.
She's like
Lisa,
every
you
girl
idiot.
in like a high school theater department.
That's right. That's absolutely
Pathetic.
right.
Why can't we make this work, please? I'll do anything.
You're so non-threatening. And you never want to have sex.
Yeah,
We
you
both
never-
love Wicked, please.
You never try anything. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
feel so
it's so
safe.
nice.
and respected.
The power plant lights on fire, and it spreads to Fred, who melts, then does a small explosion and falls over, which really made me laugh. And he's just this shriveled husk that rolls over and reveals Jesse emerging from him this time. And it is really interesting, and it's a really interesting ending to me, because it does kind of further break the idea of fixed roles. Because typically, the quote-unquote final girl is the one who vanquishes the monster. And here, it is Lisa who sends Freddy packing, rematerializing Jesse, who has been all 3 of the major roles here: victim, monster, and final boy. So it just really is kind of an interesting dynamic for that character to have gone through this arc, I think.
It's a very like Beauty and the Beast kind of like,
Right.
end climax. I'll kiss him, show him love, and then he'll transform from the beast to the prince he was.
That's right.
But then
Uh-oh.
it didn't work. Heterosexuality didn't take. Doesn't stick.
Never
Absolutely
does.
right. The ending reflects the beginning with a school bus arriving to pick up Jesse, who is headed back to school. He sits with Lisa and he smooches her, but she doesn't want to talk about the events of the movie or his gay thoughts because he needs to stay focused on being straight. Jesse thinks the bus is starting to go too fast, but Lisa doesn't see anything wrong. And he sees the warning signs, but the bus stops. Jesse comes back to Earth, and Lisa's friend says, "Hey, don't worry about it. It's all over." Until the hand of Freddy bursts through her chest, and Freddy laughs as the bus speeds into the desert again, because of course, trying to be with Lisa now that he's got a handle on things and was back to normal, it's just going to repeat the whole experience. You cannot keep it inside. And so ultimately, this is kind of a shocking ending that it winds up being like, oh, a victory for Lisa. And it's like,
She is in that bus driving into the desert, though.
that's true.
I don't know if Lisa's thinking like I'm a winner.
That's true. That's true. She does still have to, I guess, be in a relationship that doesn't have this actual
loveless,
passion,
sexless
right?
in which she will
relationship,
never be fulfilled.
Right, exactly. So okay, maybe she's not a winner per se, but yeah, it really is just kind of a fascinating ending to me. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this because it is kind of a controversial ending.
The ending's controversial? I mean, isn't the whole thing kind of like controversial?
That is true.
Who's it controversial to?
I suppose it's controversial in that a lot of people think that the ending is homophobic, and in that it is sort of him tamping it back down as the victory.
Maybe if they weren't like in a runaway bus at the end with like Freddy cackling, I would think they would have a point.
It
But
feels like
clearly
a
at the end, Freddy wasn't defeated.
Yes.
Yeah, it feels like a standard Nightmare on Elm Street ending. We're like, oh,
Yeah,
you think it's fine, but no, it's not, and come back for the next one. That's what
I think
it
it's
seems
only
to me.
like Dream Warriors that has somewhat a happy ending because what's her face live? Patricia
Right.
Arquette lives,
Right.
Until she's killed in the next
right.
one.
The first 10 minutes of the next one.
She had places to be, John.
Yeah.
Right. She's got to get ready for
Like other
media.
things, right.
We're shooting Boyhood in 2 weeks. Like,
I got to spend the next 15 years on this.
yeah. I like this. I don't know. I don't think the ending's great because you can't be repressed and then not think you're gonna have flare ups. I guess.
I also think
Or
to
to
call it
think, like-
homophobic is to say that they knew what they were doing. And I feel
Right.
like all of the stuff that we were giving it credit for does feel accidental.
I don't know. I don't think you could be that accidental that often. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think there'd be more slip ups. There'd be more like messy, like, well, now he is straight here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there is like, I think there'd be more like, oh, he does seem attracted to Lisa here at some point, but he never is.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I love reclaiming it and thinking all that's great about it, but I also feel like I would love to see a version of this movie where they're like, oh, we are saying this. This is what we're doing, as opposed to like, maybe we're doing this. To me, it felt like the writer and as much as his denials, like I had no idea. I think he did know what he was doing and was like, oh, here's a hot button issue and I'll play with it in a way. And then when he's called out for it, he's like, no, I didn't know it, anything like that. Like, I don't feel like it was like intentional and thought out.
But I also don't think the movie is really like homophobic either.
I agree.
So I don't know. I think the director knew what he was doing. I think the director has said he knew it was gay when he was doing it.
Yeah, I am inclined to agree with you guys in that when people do complain about the ending, it does feel a little bizarre to me because it just feels like they're not engaging with the actual
Yeah.
ending. Like they're just
Like you just think, well, a gay guy died. That's bad.
right.
You know, that's
Homophobia.
rude. Homophobia. Rude. He died of old age.
Wrong, bad, canceled.
You can't experience any issues. Otherwise,
Nothing.
it's a problem.
Oh, unless it's coming out. That's the only issue you can ever have.
I do really like the ending. I think that it does work. I think that it does tie the whole thing up in the way that it reflects the beginning and him having tried to reinvent himself
Bookends.
and still isn't able to. I think it's pretty spectacular.
I don't think like in terms of like I used to say it's like it's not a good Freddy movie, but I think it is a great queer horror movie. Like it's a great example of a queer horror film. But now I think no, it is a good Freddy movie. I like that they use him as just like a thematic. Like it doesn't have to like who cares it doesn't follow the rules. Big fucking deal. There's 7 other movies where that happens.
Right, but I think
I'm
that's why
glad
it's
that
not
this
a good Freddy
exists.
movie. Like
But I don't care about. I think it is. I like that they're
I
using
think you
Freddy
could not
for
care about,
different
but also
reasons.
say it's not a good Freddy movie and be like, and that's fine.
No, I think it is a good Freddy movie because I think I like how they use Freddy differently here. I like that he is used as a different purpose to express a character's internal theme. I like that about that.
But I think if you're looking at it as like like it doesn't follow the rules of the Nightmare on
But
Elm
aren't these
Street.
things? If everyone says these things are modern myths, so does that mean they should be open to interpretation? Like we don't have to be so beholden to the one tried way to do things.
I don't think these are different things. I think they're saying like Wes Craven was like, here are the rules of Freddy Krueger, and they go and they break them. But I don't think any of that is intentional. Like I think there is a way in which they could be like, oh, the rules might be different for Freddy Krueger because there's this gay character, stuff like that. I feel like all of that is accidental, and I think the ways in which it does not follow the rules are not smart or clever. It's just sloppy and lazy.
Interesting.
But I think it still is a fun movie, and it's still like, and I agree, like it's a great queer movie. But I
would
understand
never call
if
this
someone
movie
says,
lazy.
I think a lot of the
Lazy?
writing is lazy. Yeah, like there's ways in which you could be like, oh, Fred Krueger does not come out at.
It's
does
so
not come
constantly
out real.
goofy.
Right, but I think but also like you think that parakeet scene, like it's absurd. But I don't,
Yeah,
but
I like
don't
that.
think it's.
I'm glad
but I
it
think it's-
exists.
But I think it's also like it does go against like the larger.
I guess I don't care about like intent as much. Like if I enjoy the final product, I don't care about
I think
the intent.
that's fine, but I think you can have that, and it's also like, but it is a bad Freddy Krueger movie.
I can think it's a good. Well, I think it's a good Fred Krueger movie. I like that they took a big swing and did something totally different with him.
I think they could have done all of that and still followed like the basic rules of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the ways in which it does not follow the rules is not because they had an interesting take or another idea or like a weird.
But like they just
sort of
forgot
thing.
we have a year to make this movie.
Exactly. That's what I feel like happened. Where they were like, I've got this parakeet prop. Let's do that.
I guess I like it enough that like like if it's like that doesn't bother me because I like so much that I don't. Really
I think
care
all of
about
that is fine, but I still understand when someone's like, "Oh, it does not follow the rules," and
Yeah.
and if you're frustrated in that way, I think also like people can actually be homophobic and then say, "Oh, this is why I don't like that movie."
Absolutely.
But I do think that in some ways it does fail or does fall short of being a solid Nightmare on Elm Street movie in that way. But I think it succeeds in other ways that I also don't care, but I also can say, yeah, but it does fail in those ways.
So what would your star rating be, John? 1 to 5 stars.
I don't know. I think I think that's reductive. That
Wow.
Oh, God. You just don't want to answer.
I think it's fun in a lot of ways, but if you want to say, is this a good, like it does not follow the, like there are things rules that are broken in this movie that they go back to following in subsequent movies. So in the way I get that it's an outlier, I still enjoy it and think it's great and fun. I would love someone to almost remake this movie intentionally going, this is the statement we're making. I do feel like so much of what we do love about it is somewhat accidental. And is somewhat us putting something on it rather than something that was intended.
But that was also the time, though.
Like if Lance Black were to be like, let's redo this movie, I think that there's so much more interesting and exciting and fun to have rather than us kind of like not stretching so much, but sort of going like, no, this is like I think there's some stuff in retrospect we're giving it credit for that I think it happened upon.
I still didn't hear a star rating, John.
Because I told her I wasn't going to answer that.
Oh, okay.
It is really interesting because I definitely see both of your points. And I think that ordinarily a movie that breaks the rules as much as this tends to feel, especially the Hellraiser franchise is coming to mind, where it's like, why? Like it feels like a movie where they had the script and they said, we need to continue the rights. And so let's slap Pinhead
slap
in
on
here.
some IP.
Shove him in this.
Right. And I don't think I get that feeling from this despite the rule breaking. Like it's still, even if it is maybe mishandling some of the Dream Demon aspects of it, it still feels like they set out to make a Freddy movie. And to me, that is enough to sort of carry it over the finish line of being an acceptable Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I guess I don't really care about like the rules, so to speak.
Yeah,
like I know that's kind of controversial for a lot of horror fans, but
it was like 5 Friday the 13th movies before they got Supernatural.
Six, I guess. But
they're not like, you don't have to. I don't know. I think there's like these franchise things. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying. But I'm just like, I don't care. Like, it's just the first movie did that. So why are we so beholden? You know what I mean? I don't know. I like a sense of play. That's what I'm saying.
It is also early enough that, like, I guess I don't feel the rules are as set in stone as something that has been going for a while. I don't know. It is kind of an interesting situation that it finds itself in.
Because I guess they never say in the first one, Freddy can't possess people and then become material. They never say that in the first one.
That's very true. That's very true. Luckily, we don't have to put a star rating on it because we're not here to discuss why it's the best horror movie. We're here to discuss why this is the gayest horror movie ever made. And so we're gonna sum up our thoughts on it and its gayness now. And I'm gonna let you guys start. Mark, why don't we start with you?
Oh God, I think it's pretty gay. I do think it is like a very gay movie about a closeted time. You know, I think they were doing what they could with it. I don't think they meant to say we're going to do a positive queer message or anything, but I think they wanted to have, seemingly somebody at some point decided to have some queer themes. Who that author of that stuff is, I don't know. But I thought I like having that in this, like, you know, mainstream horror movie, appealing, that is for teenagers to scream at on a Friday night.
Yeah.
I think this movie I've only liked, every time I watch it, I like it more. And it's probably at this point the one I've seen the most out of all of them too. because it is just so goofy. There are so many wild things that are just like, yeah, that parakeet thing is like, why is this happening? I don't know, but I'm glad I get to see Clu Gallagher fight a parakeet that explodes. I'm glad that scene exists. Call AFI.
This needs 4K.
Yeah, truly. I don't think it's like the best Elm Nightmare movie. I think that would probably be like 1 or 3, but I would put it like in the 3rd or 4th. It's definitely the gayest for sure. I think we've done the math on this.
For sure.
We did review all of them on our Patreon, and this is definitely the gayest one.
There you go. It collected the most gay points as we checked through.
Yeah. And I do think it is like a fairly gay movie overall, like especially for the time, you know. It's just so coded, and if you are like a gay closeted boy and you only have access to Nightmare on Elm Street 2, you're in pretty good hands for like, you know, it delivers thrills and then you get some spank bank material.
There you go.
Absolutely.
So what more could you ask for in a film?
That's absolutely right. All right, John, let's hear from you.
I mean, it's all there. I mean, it's the man candy, the flesh on display, the stuff it's working on. Again, like I still love it and think it's great, but I think I would just love to see a version of this where it was intentional and the creators didn't go, oh, we had no idea.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or like it was a little more thought out and a little bit more baked in as opposed to, because, you know, but I mean, I can't think of a
But those themes are still
movie.
there, you know.
They are there, but I think
Whether intentional or not, the themes are there.
right. But I would love to see a version of it where they were like, okay, let's really commit to this and
Right.
not give ourselves the space to go, oh, we had no idea, even though there was the board game Probe in his teenage closet. But I think, yeah, I mean, like it's all there. There's like there's your gym coach fantasy. There's, you know, your love interest is like a Meryl Streep stand-in. Like there's nothing about it that you can say.
Your
like,
two best
isn't
friends
there.
are Meryl Streep and then a muscle twink.
Exactly. Yeah. And Sal Mineo. Like it's all there. It's absolutely there. There's nothing that. Yeah, and for all the horror movies that exist, there's nothing gayer than Nightmare on Elm Street 2: Freddy's Revenge.
Absolutely. To me, this is the gayest horror movie ever made because in a time where it is forced to be so constrained, where they had to put themselves in a spot to be like, oh, we didn't know, it is still doing so much with the material that it has. It is... at every turn, every paragraph of my description of this movie, there was something that was gay in it.
Take a shot. You get trashed at the end of this.
You can't drive for a week.
Take a shot of beer.
Yeah. The only one that could possibly compete, maybe, off my head, is like Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah, right. And for this to be able to stand toe-to-toe with such a legendary movie like that is really, I think, very high praise for it.
I think the conversation has shifted on, or it is shifting on Elm Street 2.
Yeah. And I'm absolutely here for it. I am thrilled to see people taking it into their heart and loving it and accepting it for the movie that it is. You know, it's definitely different from the first one, and it's even different from the ones that came after it. But that's what makes it so special to me, and that's what makes it the gayest horror movie ever made. There we go. We did it.
Did it.
You said it. You said the words.
Yes. Fact.
It has been said.
Settled law.
Settled law.
Chisel that
Let
in
it be.
stone.
Release the crows.
Mark, John, I want to thank you guys so much for coming back on the show. Please tell the people where they can find you, where they can listen to your show, buy your book, all that jazz.
You can listen to our show wherever you listen to podcasts, and we have a Patreon, patreon.com/twooldqueens. George has done an episode. He did Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toy Maker.
Of course.
A total blast of a movie and
Classic.
a really fun episode.
Mickey Rooney.
And you could Mickey Rooney.
Gay icon.
Gay icon. And yeah, just follow us wherever.
Jewel Queens at Gmail or
That's our email. You can email us if you want.
or I mean at Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. And if you want to
And
have
John wrote a book.
I wrote a book. It's called Bake, Sex, Drugs, and Alternative Comedy. You can buy it on Amazon or on my website, which is johnflynnComedian.com. And that's it.
Highly recommend doing all of that stuff. As I've said multiple times, Two Old Queens is a personal favorite of mine. I'm a big fan of the show. So definitely check that out. And if you're listening to this, you're already a patron of my show, so you're probably doing all the stuff. So my only plug is to say, hey, go tell somebody about the show, because that is the best way to spread the word, is literally spreading the word. So
makes sense.
Very on the nose.
That's right. That's right. So take someone aside, say, hey, I'm listening to Best Little Horror House in Philly. There's a great episode about Carrie. There's a great episode about the Phantom of the Paradise. Start there. Great movies and great places to start. So tell them about that. And that's pretty much it. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.